Good evening, and after a very long, emotional, and frankly brutal weekend, I woke up feeling a little bit like Jack Grealish this morning, but maybe he's in a slightly better mood. Welcome to the Anglo-Italian pod. As always, my name is Rory, and I'm joined by my very good friend
Adam. Hey Rory, it's weird that kind of end of season has actually happened, mate.
I
It's
say it's
here.
done.
It's here, and I can't believe it. It's seems to have gone so quickly over this weekend. Maybe it's just this heat wave as well in the UK that's making it feel so quick. But mate, how are you doing anyway?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I found myself on my app today, the FOTMob app,
Oh
just
yeah.
clicking on it, just in hope that there was a football game on. And then it just says at the top, you need to follow more teams. Like there is nobody you follow
There's
playing.
nothing else left.
And it was just a really sobering moment of, oh, yeah, it's over. It's over. But guys, we are here to take you through the overness of it and look back at what was an incredible weekend. Lots of action. You're gonna watch me live try to remember a Champions League final because I tell you what, there is not much I remember about it. So we're going to be talking Champions League. We're going to be giving flowers to Manchester City. We're going to be giving flowers to Inter Milan, who definitely did not disappoint in their performance. We're going to get into it. We're going to be looking at this team here and how they broke my heart last night. And the girlfriend woke up and honestly was like, I feel sad. I feel how you feel when Arsenal lose. Okay, let's slow down. There's not that much, right? But yeah, I get where you're coming from. And we are, of course, going to be talking about the team that Cagliari will be replacing as Hellas and Spezia. Despite everything we said, Hellas managed to find a goal threat. So just in the nick of time, they found a goal threat and were able to secure their survival, which means we will be saying arrivederci, or we are saying arrivederci to Spezia, and we'll be discussing how quickly we expect them to come back. How can Verona improve? We've got lots to cover. As we said, our end of season shows are going to be two separate shows. There's going to be two separate pods, one for an Serie A season review, one for the Premier League season review, and they will be released Friday, Saturday. At some point this week, they will be released. So keep an eye on our socials for that. But for now, Adam, anything to say before we go to the Champions League final?
No, I think we should go straight for it. So let's do it.
Let's do it. And here we are now. I'm going to take half a credit for this and say I got it right. I said 1-0. I just said 1-0 to Inter, not 1-0 to City. So, Tom, if you're listening, you owe me a tenner. Good. City were victorious 1-0. A goal from, of all people, a goal from Rodri to seal the game. A beautiful finish as it stroked around the defenders who were trying to bravely block the goal.
Yeah.
But a game that... Adam, in general, your takeaways from this game before we look at the key moments?
I think it was a tough fought game, to be honest. And I think if into a bit more ambitious, perhaps, in the final third. And obviously we saw a little bit more kind of persuasive action towards the end when they were chasing the game, I suppose. But yeah, on reflection, you kind of feel like Man City just did the job. At the end of the day, they did what they had to do. They didn't do anything magnificent. They didn't do anything like they did in the previous game against Real Madrid, for example, where they completely whitewashed that team. It was just one of those frustrating moments, I think it's fair to say. I mean, there's a few performances that I want to kind of highlight as well that I feel like maybe let Inter down on the day itself. But I mean, overall, I think... I don't know what your reflection was and what your hazy memory is like as well.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I think Inzaghi played really well.
We paid quite a lot of money. We paid 20 quid to get tickets to see this place. You got 2 free beers, a bit of food. It was pretty good. But what I would say to them is next time, just move the screen like a meter higher, because it just meant that most of the game I was staring at the back of some guy's head. That, including the beer and whatever else, the second half is very much a hazy thing to me. All I really remember is the goal going in and being like, oh, God damn it. But what my general impression of the game was that Inter had more opportunities. They were much better than we expected. And I mean, we were saying that they would do a good job, but I think honestly their performance was outstanding.
Yeah.
I think the only thing they needed to do was make more clear-cut chances, make Ederson work a little bit more. I think Ederson was only really forced into 1 or 2 saves when it could a little bit more. And once that City goal went in, I was like, okay, that's it. That's game over then, I suppose. I never really felt like we're going to get back into it. But of the players, before we kind of focus on City, the players that really impressed me for Inter, I thought DiMarco was absolutely fantastic. You could tell that game meant absolutely everything to him. Inter boy, born and bred, absolutely loves it. I thought he was outstanding. I thought the attackers just had a quiet night in general, but I feel like the midfield did really well. I think players like Brozovic, and they were able to kind of get control of that midfield. I thought they did really well. And I think defensively, Inter were very good. And then the player that we said since this pod has started, we said how much Inter needed to replace Handanovic. They've got Onana, and the passes he was playing, as well as the saves that he was making. He has been such an important signing for them. And I thought he was like, it's weird for the goalkeeper to be like one of the best playmakers on the field. But I thought he was so good. And I think he was able to relieve pressure for Inter. He was able to get attacks going for them. And I think maybe Guardiola and City didn't anticipate him being that, like having that good an aspect to his game. I don't know if they really thought about it, and then all of a sudden they had to deal with these like line breaking passes into the midfield. I think City were definitely on the ropes at times, and they should have scored. I just wanted that one moment. I didn't like, obviously I wanted Inter to win, obviously, but I just wanted us to be able to celebrate a goal, and I'm really disappointed we didn't get that moment, because I think Inter deserved it through their play. It was still a fantastic day. It was still a fantastic evening. It could have been a lot better, but it was still an incredible experience. And next time Inter will win it, I think. But you said there was a few players that you thought let Inter down. Is it Martinez and Lukaku? Because I think it might be Martinez and Lukaku.
Well, surprisingly, I felt if we take that out of the equation, I felt Dumfries was a bit slow on the ball. There was occasions where he could have been a lot more quicker, and it was the Dumfries that we've seen all season. In fairness, I worry. I mean, there's a few times where Barella's shouting just down the line or waiting for him to run and just kind of allow him to do that pass. So I felt at times he was just a bit lethargic. I don't know if the occasion got to him.
His football IQ isn't great, Dumfries.
No,
I think
he's not the most intelligent.
He's chaos. He's chaos.
Yeah, so there's that one. I thought Çalhanoğlu, I thought he struggled in this game. I didn't feel like he had the same impetus that he normally does in terms of the gameplay. So I think he reflects on this. And you could tell when he was brought off, I think it was with 4 or 5 minutes to go, that he was genuinely really disappointed with his performance, especially being back at home, so to speak, in Turkey. So I think he's going to be kicking himself. But Lautaro is an obvious one. I think Lautaro is going to be really kicking himself in some. You could see the emotion at the end of the game as well. Like there's a few occasions where he should have released the ball a bit quicker. There's one, for example, where he shoots from distance when all he has to do is pass it into Barella's path, and then Barella could either take a shot on at Ederson or he crosses it into the box. I felt like also, I don't know how you felt, but first half when you've got Dzeko, he wasn't really utilised much. And I don't know what the thought was, but he's not going to chase down the ball. And he's not going to be the kind of player that once he gets the ball, he's going to run with the ball itself and create something. Whereas Lukaku, when he came on, I thought was much more of a threat, gave a little bit of a headache to Man City. I appreciate we're going to probably talk about those chances and the way he became a Man City centre-back instead of like actually being an attacker. But it's not for the wheel of like not wanting to score. I think
no,
he should do better. Definitely with the header, right?
I think there's ways that players are bad. Now, some players when they play badly, are able to hide it incredibly well and do it very subtly. Lukaku, when he's bad, it's just the most obvious thing. And I think he needs to learn how to play badly quietly, because what it does is it just highlights everything. And like the fact that now he's blocked an Inter shot in a final twice just by being in the wrong place at the wrong time and being massive. A part of it is really bad luck. It's just shit luck. And part of it is maybe just that split second of not making that extra move or thinking, where's my teammate? Where's the ball going? Just that slight switch off of concentration. And then and there was the ball across goal where it didn't make the most of that either. And I felt like we've talked about Rom and how much mentality is important to him and how much confidence it's just up and down with that guy. You can just see that the second one thing went wrong for him, he's like, oh, fuck, it's not my day. It's just not gonna happen. So I think it was the right substitution to make. It had an impact. It did have an impact. I just think most Inter fans were cursing his name, I'll be honest. Because he's got to be putting one of those away or getting out of the way of DeMarco for that, because that is a goal that is going in. And these are the fine margins that the game are won and lost on, right? Ultimately. And I think City definitely rode their luck, but we do have to say City got the job done. As I said, when the goal went in, there was never any doubt in my mind that City were going to win it then. I was like, there's no way to come back now. City are just going to see this out. I know there were still a few chances after that, but it never felt like Inter were going to get that goal. And I think a big part of that is, and finally people are starting to recognize him, John bloody Stones. The guy has been insane. And like, if you think about when he went from it was Barnsley straight to Everton, then to City, wasn't it? And when he went to Everton, and even his early days at City, people got annoyed that he'd spend too long on the ball or he'd lose passes. And he definitely had development to make, and he has developed a huge amount over the years. Like Guardiola's turned him into this incredible defender. But I think seeing where he is now, he's this like continental style defender that we have and he plays for England. He should be the first name in that defense every day. Every time England play, it's John Stones and somebody. If you can utilize him in that same way, and you can say, give him the freedom to step up into midfield, bolster the midfield, give numbers and create play. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. And he has been throughout the second half of this season. And I think if it wasn't for Haaland, he could have had a shout of player of the year, because he's been unbelievable. And it's not often centre-backs get that kind of plaudit. So it would have been nice to see. And I think, were there any other players for City that stood out for you? I think John Stones was the one that really blew me away. Kyle Walker had an amazing game as well. But was there anyone else who stood out?
I think if you look at the performances of centre back, so Ruben Dias as well was quite solid, I thought. And this is the thing, you alluded to John Stones. He was magnificent in this semi-final against Real Madrid. I was lucky to see that live and to see how much he kind of just is going forward now with the ball. He's now becoming more of an attacking force. I actually think, Rory, he's got a place in that midfield, in England's midfield now going forward, because I think if you had him alongside a Declan Rice, let's say, for argument's sake, I think that's a really strong midfield. Then it's just a question of trying to find a centre back now. That's the thing, isn't it? So I suspect Gareth Southgate won't go down that line. But in terms of that Man City performance, I'm struggling actually for someone that was better than perhaps, Rodri. But also we have to call it out, Edison as well. I mean, I know the shots were at him, but I think one of them, he doesn't know it's there. He just gets something on it. So I think you've got to give kudos to that. I felt like it was a bit of a weird one that he went with Ake instead of Kyle Walker, because he must have clearly listened to our pod, realised that I said about that left-hand side being exploited. And I think Ake did a really good job, in fairness. But I think it was more the midfield pressure. And I don't know. I felt like as soon as De Bruyne came off, I thought, right, this is the opportunity for Inter. But actually, they didn't seem to make it look that obvious. And I don't know if that was John Stones' performance. But before we kind of leave the Inter Milan praise as well, I want to just shout out Acerbi's job on Haaland was magnificent.
Unbelievable. We were kind of tongue-in-cheek talking about how good he's been. And that was an unbelievable performance. Kept him so quiet. Almost forgot he was on the pitch. Just incredible. It's someone we've been really impressed with this season, though, eh?
And definitely he's getting the plaudits now. I think obviously there's the backdrop story about his life and what the struggles he's been through. I mean, if you think about Ethan this season, everyone wrote him off. They said,
Yeah.
what is this signing? Like, he's an ex-Milan player, essentially, because he's a Milan boy. Went to Lazio. It looks like a favourite of Simeone Inzaghi's. And you can see he's just restored that faith as well, especially when you consider part of the season he's been trying to come up with the ball and then losing it in really stupid places and then trying to trace back. And he's like exhausted by the time he gets back to the other end of the pitch. So I think he's developed that side of the game to be a bit more simplistic on the ball. And certainly he seems to be getting a lot better with it as well. So Acerbi, fair play to you. I wrote you off at the beginning of the season. You deserve all the plaudits now.
Definitely. No, yeah, definitely. He's been outstanding for them. One more City player I did think had a very good game was Bernardo Silva. I thought he was fantastic. Genuinely caused quite a lot of threat throughout the game. So I think he did really, really well. Now, there's a problem in my head. I don't like Man City as a club for obvious reasons, but this team are very likable. I find the team very likable. And I think the scenes post the game, obviously it's going to be Jack Grealish. I fucking love Jack Grealish. I absolutely love everything about him. He seems like a really pure, nice bloke. Just your typical lad that's out on the piss, absolutely loving his life. I love that him and Haaland are like best mates. I just think there's so many players in this squad. Like, you can't look at John Stones and not feel happy for him for winning it, or De Bruyne and think, yeah, you deserve this. Like, I feel like the team, sometimes it just kind of hit me this weekend. I was like, we do only slag off the club, but I just wanted to say for the players, you have to just say, as a sporting achievement, fucking absolutely fair play. Like, it's not your fault the club has cheated. It's not your fault the club's done this, done that. You've gone out and you've reached the peak of your professional career, and they all seem like lovely blokes. So I just, I'm that helped it a little bit, I suppose. And I think, like, it's been great to see Jack Grealish has reacted exactly the way we expected him to, right?
Yeah, definitely. You can see, I mean, from the moment he's realised that he's won to like literally right now, just before us going live, we've seen pictures of him on the lash. Literally, he's probably still in the same kit, right? Yeah. Still loving the parade in Manchester as we're going live now. So, yeah, he's a downhearted kid, it's fair to say, because everything he does in terms of fan mail is genuinely from him as well. He spends a lot of time on that fan mail stuff. One other player that I want to highlight, though, was also Haaland in the interview after the game. I don't know if you saw it, Rory, but he was talking to Thierry Henry about asking him genuinely, like, what one aspect would you kind of give me as a piece of advice? And he said, just turn on your right. If you could be as good as you are on the left-hand side on your right, you'd be scoring
Thierry, shut up. Just say nothing. Just say nothing. Nothing. You're perfect. Don't change a thing.
Yeah, exactly. But I love the humbleness of Haaland there as well, because I think everyone has this picture of he's quite arrogant, he's up himself, and maybe his mannerisms kind of on the pitch make him look like that. But genuinely, you can see he's a guy that's like, he's hungry. He still wants more. And that's scary, isn't it?
It's fucking terrifying. It's terrifying because he should get the Ballon d'Or at this rate. Like, it's been insane how good a year he's had. I did think there was a really funny quote in that same bit where it was like, you know, I just want it to be inspiration for other kids from small towns in Norway that they can achieve this. And I was like, yeah, I love that message. But have you seen you? You look like you were designed in a laboratory. If there's any kids in a town anywhere that look like you, they're being found. Don't worry. I think I love the message, but Haaland, you are a freak, an absolute freak. But yeah, I really loved that. And I think the CBS coverage in general was fantastic. I loved that Jack Grealish had a bit of banter with Thierry Henry and Kyle Walker about who would be, you know, in their prime and stuff. And I think what we saw there was a very different approach to a coverage of a game and a very different approach to coverage in general, as opposed to BT Sport. Now, Joe Spagnoli, hello, mate, has jumped in with a quote. Every, let's be honest, English pundit, analyst or journalist that wrote Inter off deserves a serious kicking. Quite staggering that City's toughest game came against a team nowhere near the Scudetto. That's Inter for you. But the difference in coverage was absolutely mind-blowing. Now, obviously, I didn't watch the BT coverage live because I was out, but I have seen, let's say, the highlights so far. Well, everyone can rest assured that the main story was Jake Humphrey's last game at last game of
everyone
coverage. Right?
rejoiced with a drink.
As long as everybody understands that, right? It's Jake Humphrey's last game. There just happens to be a final going on in the background. What did you make of BT's coverage before we talk about how CBS might be saving or like sanity?
I'm going to be brutally honest. I didn't really watch too much of it pre-game. I only literally switched it on for the game itself because I was having a barbecue leading up to it. So I was like, barbecue, time for the game. Let's get it on, basically, and have a drink. I think this is a problem in general, and I'm going to generalize this because I've seen this numerous times with BT Sports, or TNT as they're going to call themselves now going forward. But
whatever
BT
that
Sports is essentially quite lazy in the sense of that they get the same old personnel who don't seem to do a lot of research on the teams that they're going to like cover on in terms of the games. And just generally, I found it quite ironic a few times where the likes of Hargreaves, not just Hargreaves, but say Michael Owen and these kind of characters, they don't seem to do a lot of research on the teams. They don't understand what they are. They don't know what they're doing in their respective leagues. You know, they don't kind of look at the pattern of plays as well. Like Owen Hargreaves is a bit more on it in that respect, but the others, they don't really, they generalize it and they say, oh, this player, he's top goal scorer, so he should be doing better in that position. It's like, you have no idea of how they play. And like, yeah, I'd say I agree with Joe in terms of the coverage of how they kind of wrote off Inter. They expected this to be a whitewash. They saw just older players that have or used to play in the Premier League and expected them to be just really lethargic and maybe not put in the same intensity as perhaps Man City would. But it went to show that actually Inter deserved a lot of credit for the way they came out. They took the game to Man City and they kept them quiet. Really kept them quiet. But in terms of the coverage, I mean, I'm not going to miss the likes of Steve McManaman in co-coms. I mean, he was horrendous. I tried to block it out during the game. But there's even moments, you know, Fletcher, I've forgotten his first name, but the co-coms, he can be a bit irritating now as well. And the worst one is Robbie Savage. We've alluded to him on the previous pod, and he's terrible.
I find it really annoying that, like, there was a really nice moment after the game where Kyle Walker was trying to talk about the journey that he's been on. And he went, I remember when my mum didn't have enough money to pay for the ice cream van. And he was obviously about to like make a tribute to his family in this journey. And Rio was like, let's kick this up a notch. What are you drinking later? And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Like, not only are you clearly not listening to the bloke, like you're clearly not listening to him. If you are, you must have a personality disorder because I don't know how you go from that to that. And I just think it shows this like level of like, it's banter is such a weird thing because you have banter between Mika Richards, Thierry Henry and Carragher and it's not awkward. But when they do banter, because it's so forced and so like, lads, it just does not work at all. And I think what we're seeing is CBS are really pushing forward onto what the coverage is going to be and what people really want at the moment, which is serious football discussion, but they're not taken too seriously. And like the fact they're able to just get people come on and do decent interviews, ask decent questions, ask interesting questions. Like, I don't feel like Jake Humphrey has any interest in what anybody says to him beyond them letting him speak again. Like, if anybody's seen that thread of his like partridge moments across his time at BT Sport, the one where he picks on Keown about being late, and Keown's like, someone threw themselves in front of the train. What am I supposed to do? Oh yeah, that's not good, is it? Like, man, you're such a plank. And David Ginola giving him the wanker sign behind him.
That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
How have I not seen that clip before? Oh my God, it was absolutely brilliant. So Jake Humphrey can sod off to teaching high performance to uninterested GCSE students and trying to shag the woman at the office, and we can never have to look at him again, thankfully. I'm hoping that TNT Sport do switch it up because I think their Serie A coverage has been, in general, fantastic. Getting on people like James Horncastle and James Richardson. Their European goal show is great because they get Ralph Honigstein and
Julian
Laurent, people that know the leagues. Right? Like, mind-blowing concept. I hope they keep things like that. And then you can still have Ferdinand on if you want to cover United or Owen on if you want to bore people to death. But if you're into another league, get someone who knows about that league. Like the level of knowledge for the general football fan is much higher now than it was 10 years ago.
Yes.
And I feel like they've not really moved on beyond that. Like, Italian teams love to win 1-0. And the Spanish teams will dive a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it just is like people watch football from more countries now and know more, and the coverage needs to be improved. I think that's what CBS are doing. So fair play, CBS. Loving that. They're just so much better. But goodbye, Jake Humphrey. Good luck in your future endeavors, whatever they are. But I think we're going to leave the Champions League final there for now. I think. Was there anything else?
I think so. I think the only thing I would like to just highlight is Inzaghi. I thought he got it spot on. Pep probably less so, I think it's fair to say. But yeah, other than that, I think we've pretty much covered all of the points in regards to that result. And yeah, as you've kind of nicely moved us on, they are treble winners. Yeah,
they are treble winners. A lot of talk of the greatest English team of all time. I think there's genuinely an argument for that. I think there's genuinely an argument for it.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into the weeds of like player for player per 99 United and City this, but I think let's just say we are watching a very, very, very special team. It is an incredibly special team. And hopefully the rumors of Guardiola leaving in 2 years are true. Otherwise, nobody is ever going to win anything else ever. And yeah, last one, Inter holding their heads high. This has been a good season for them, I think. It's ended. Obviously, they would have rather won the Champions League, obviously. But I think top four, Coppa Italia and the Champions League final is actually a pretty successful season. Do you think Inzaghi can build on it for next year? I think there's still signs in this team that they can push on next year.
I think so. It all depends on who they sell now, though, doesn't it? So there's a lot of rumours about Onana already being linked with Chelsea. Rumours are around 80 million is what they put as a price tag. But believe it or not, I think Chelsea have decided to go, okay, that's a bit too high, and we're going to move on to Mike Maignan, which is probably more realistic for them at this stage, potentially, because of what's going on at Milan. They probably need the money right now. So potentially that could be a feasible kind of transfer. But the other ones that I saw prior to this final, Rory, was Dumfries to Man United for 50 million, which
please,
mate, that would be hilarious just to see that happen, because that'd be like another Wan-Bissaka essentially turning up at Man United, which again would be hilarious. But I suspect there might be maybe a player transfer across, perhaps maybe pushing Maguire out, but Maguire's sitting still. He doesn't want to leave Man United.
He wants that payoff.
He wants to stay there. He wants to stay there, that's for sure. But the other one is Lautaro. Lautaro is going to be massive. And I think if anyone's watched this final, I'm sure DeMarco might be like potentially someone that someone's going to kind of go, he's a useful player. He's a really useful player.
He's very good. He is very good.
He is. It's just whether his will is to stay in Italy and see. I
think I don't want to jinx it, but I think he would just stay at Inter. I think he would just stay at Inter
as well. He's a bit like Barella. I think he's a homeboy. I think he prefers to stay where he is now,
as much as I dream of Barella arriving at Arsenal one day, it's just not going to happen. I need to come to terms with that sooner or later. But yeah, so Inter, I think they can. They've already been linked to a few players, obviously classic free transfers, etc., for them to get involved in. But we'll be keeping on top of that, because I think it's going to be an open race next year. It's going to be a super open race again. So hopefully Inter are involved. So we're going to leave that there. Let's go for the Serie B. No, the Serie A relegation play out. Let's start there. Now, Adam, obviously I was watching Bari, so you need to take us through this game. All I saw was the last 10 minutes, maybe, and Spezia weren't really offering much.
No, unfortunately, it went the way of Hellas in this game. And I mean, that's not a bad thing to say, because Hellas Verona just looked like they were more looking forward. They were just more geared up to actually winning this game. Spezia really started off lethargic in this game, and it really kind of started off within 5 minutes. Ferroni coming through, scoring quite quickly. And before you knew it, I mean, it felt like Hellas Verona were in control of the game. But Ampadu comes in and scores a thunderbolt of a shot. It has to be said. It takes 2 deflections on the way. So maybe that deflection makes it feel like it was more of a thunder blast than it was. But then again, like about it's about 10 minutes later, and Guy comes through. He has a 1-2 with Juric and tidies it into the corner past Dragowski. So it's 2-1. But you think, like, okay, it's 2-1, keep it calm. And Spezia kind of trying their best to kind of dominate the midfield. They lose the ball at a crucial moment. Hellas Verona a bit more direct with the ball going out, goes down the wings, and Goy gets the ball. He shoots it past Dragowski, but it takes a deflection off Ampadu. Ampadu basically is a bit of a car crash in this game, but that's not the end of it. So second half, it's obviously 3-1. You're thinking, right, Spezia, you've got to change it up. They don't change the personnel very much. And then there's an opportunity that gets through by Shmorodov. He kind of dinks it past the goalkeeper, and you're thinking the ball's going to just kind of bounce into the net. But the guy that I spoke about who scored the opening, Ferroni, he kind of uses his hands in the air and kind of punches it off like the score. Now, at the time, I have to say, when I was kind of second glancing, I was like, did I see that? Was that right? Was that like him like punching it off like the goal line? Goes through VAR, and obviously, yeah, it comes through, red card, and it's a penalty. And Zolo steps up. Now, Anzolo, very quiet up until this point, and then he takes a penalty, a very poor penalty, straight into the bottom left-hand corner. And yeah, the Hellas Verona goalkeeper, I have to give him praise and just getting his name out. Montipo, he was incredible, because thereafter there was 2 further shots, one of them involving Nzolo as well. There was certainly another shout for a penalty about 10 minutes before the end of the match, Rory. Ball kind of just kind of scoops into the air, and somehow it lands on one of the defenders' hands, but it's not given, despite the protestations of Spezia. Spezia just run out of ideas. Ampadu is kind of forced into that midfield. He has a wild shot a few times, one that hits the crossbar, one that saved by Montipo. You saw towards the last 5 minutes, basically it was a game like that. It was one of those games that actually was really good to watch for the neutral anyway. It looked like a great atmosphere in the stadium. It was hard to tell because both sets of fans were at opposite ends of the ground, there wasn't much sound through that. But that said, that pretty much summed it up, because Spezia basically run out of puff. They didn't know what to do half the time on the ball. Arkadiusz Reka, who's on the left-hand side, crosses it a few times and it goes off for like a goal kick a few times. You had really misplaced passes all over the place. Spezia looked sloppy. They didn't look up for it, and they got relegated, rightly so. We said prior to this game that they had only scored 3 goals. The last goal they scored was against Roma. The other 2 against Milan a good 4 weeks ago, when Milan were struggling in their kind of form, leading up to the Champions League game against Inter. So, yeah, Hellas definitely deserve it. Rory, I think the question you had is whether Hellas can do better next season. But I think there's going to be a place for who's going to leave Spezia. We talked about Dragowski. We talked about a few of these players. Acadello came on very late. I mentioned to you in a WhatsApp chat, came in with 8 minutes ago. I was surprised he didn't turn up a little bit sooner in this game. It's just a car crash of game, unfortunately. Not many of the defenders will be snapped up. I'll give you that. None of the defenders will be snapped up. But Dragowski is probably going to be a good backup for someone. But yeah, your thoughts on this?
Is it predictable? My only worry was that Hellas wouldn't have enough goal threat, because they haven't this season. But Ngonje, who got the 2 goals, he's now got 3 goals this season, and 2 of them were last night. So he turned up at the right time. But I think we've said it fairly consistently. The players like Lazovic and Tomese, like there is a bit of like Serie A standard, like good Serie A players in that team, and that if they could just get that little bit of luck, that they could kind of get themselves in, get themselves safe again. I don't think they'll be this bad again next year. I feel like this was them recovering from losing huge players last season. They're not able to invest straight away, but maybe this summer will give them a bit of time to just up the level of the squad a little bit, just to keep them a little bit more comfortable, because I think this was a bit of a blip, this one. For Spezia, the second they got rid of Motta, and I know he wasn't doing well at Spezia, that's why they fired him, but they've not been able to find someone of the same standard to keep them in the league. And I think, a lot of that team are going to be picked off. I think Shomorodov's on loan, right? Is he on loan?
Yes, he's on loan from Roma. Yeah.
Yeah, but Agudelo, like you said, he should be gone. And Zola will probably be gone. Dragovski. There is some quality in there, and I think they're just a little bit too good for Serie B. But yeah, nice to see Verona stay in the league. Sorry, Spezia, but I do think Verona are like a proper Serie A side.
Yeah.
They're like, they're fucking mad
part
right
of the
wing.
heritage, aren't they, of the original?
Yeah. They're like mad right wing and upset people, which isn't great. But also, like, they are a truly historic club, and they deserve to be where they are. They should be where they are. Spezia, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what happens. I think their ownership is quite good. I feel like they're not. They're not a club that's going to struggle financially. They're not a club that like when Sampdoria went down, it felt like life or death. This feels like, okay, just reset, go again. So maybe in a couple of seasons we'll see Spezia back. It would be nice to see them back. I like their stadium. I like the energy that they bring. And I think their recruitment in general is very good. Like for them to be able to get the players they have for a team that has a stadium of like 7,000 or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Like that shows that they've got very good recruitment. So I think the fans, as much as relegation is obviously annoying, I think they can still have a little bit of hope of like, we'll be back. But Serie B is a very difficult league to get out of. It's a very difficult league to get out of. God damn it.
And Rory, there is a nice little link because it wasn't the night for Esposito's brothers, was it? Really? So we've got the one that was getting relegated from the league, but we've also going to probably move on to the Bari game because there was an Esposito up front and the younger brother.
The third brother who lost the under-20 World Cup final against Uruguay. That family, and before the game, I was like, "Oh, tis." Like to the missus, have you seen this? Like, look, the brother and they're like still, wow, what an amazing night for the family. Incredible. The parents must be so proud. I'm sure they're still proud. Of course, they're still proud. But that night must have been bloody rough on the phone. All three of them trying to call their mum at the same time. Like, exactly, would have been quite rough. But yes, we do need to talk about it, I suppose. Esposito was unable to really do anything as Bari lost 1-0 at home. Friggin' hell. They lost 1-0. It meant they lose 2-1 on aggregate. And Cagliari I completely forgot, headed by Claudio Ranieri.
Yes.
Are back in Serie A. Now, when he took over, they were in 14th place. He's managed to get them into the playoffs and now get them through the playoffs so that they bounce back straight back into Serie A, right? So they got relegated last year, bounced straight back. So that's Genoa and Cagliari straight back into the league. Insanity. And before I moan about Bari and talk about how much of a pain that evening was, I feel like Cagliari really, you could tell that they were a team that recently got relegated because I think there's still some players in that team. Not just Pavoletti, who came off the bench and scored the goal, who I remember scoring bangers in Serie A and has had 3 seasons in Serie A where he's got over 10 goals. Like, he's 34 now, but he is a good quality player. But, in midfield, players like, I don't know, Di Pardo, and I thought Luvumbo up front was very active until they took him off. I feel like he really caused Bari a lot of problems. I feel like the main thing here was that Cagliari were just a bit more willing to be on the front foot.
Yes.
And also Zappa, the right back, was absolutely fantastic. He ran absolutely everything for Cagliari down that wing. But they had a clear objective in mind. They were like, we need to come here and we need to win. Yeah. And that was the plan from minute one. It was right. We need to get a goal here. So that's what we're going to do. Bari, I feel like, as opposed to Cagliari being a team that are clearly just from Serie A, Bari still have some Serie C players, some Serie D players, and these are players that are stepping up to the level. They're stepping up to the plate. They were 2 minutes away from being Serie A players. These are good players, but you could see there was just that little bit of lack of experience, that little bit of lack of composure, and it really showed between the two teams. Because as the game went on, I feel like what Bari should have done in the first half, it's easy with hindsight now, but I think I would have been much more attacking first half and said, if we get 1 goal, this game is dead. If we get 1 goal, Cagliari need 2, and then they're in trouble. I think what the manager did was he was sat between 2 stools. Like Cagliari had a clear game plan, a clear objective, Bari didn't. And the second it got to 0-0 at half time, I was like, okay, that's good. They've not conceded, but don't sit too far back now. You can't just wait for this game to finish. And that's basically what they did. I think they were quite unlucky because they brought off Esposito, who did have a quiet night, and they brought on Setter, who was then injured 5 minutes later and had to come off, and they brought on Folarunshaw, who has scored a lot of late goals this season. He's got some big moments. He hit the post as well. Bari hit the post on the crossbar. They did have some opportunities, but it was very much just sit back, counter. And then it was much more less counter and just sit back. And then when the ball came into the box, like they just give Cagliari too much time on the ball, and they have that time to pass it round the area and get the perfect angle. And then the centre-back just loses his marker and Pavoletti's there to tap it in. And at that point, 92nd minute of 6 minutes added time, everybody knew the game was over at that point.
Yeah.
It was just an absolutely classic moment of just, of course that was going to happen. Happen. And I feel like maybe the manager should have learned some lessons last night and probably has learned some lessons last night. But the point remains that it has been an incredible season for a team that have just come up from Serie C. They were 2 minutes away from back-to-back promotions, which would have been incredible. I think now, if there's any Bari fans listening, for a slight silver lining, is like maybe now you have that year to pad out the squad a little bit more, improve it, and then be ready for Serie A. Because I was looking at a lot of the team, and I was thinking, if you do get to Serie A, how ready are you for it? Because what you don't want is to get there and just be Derby in 2008 or whatever and just get spanked for fucking 38 games. That's not what you want. You want to get there and be able to compete. And I think there still needs to be a little bit of quality added to that team. Khedira had a very quiet night. I feel like, I know we love him, but he's such a weird player.
I was looking at last time he scored. Last time he scored was 19th of May, and that was against Genoa. So that was genuinely like good couple weeks ago since he's scored a goal. So
it's been a while.
He's gone quiet. He's gone quiet.
And I think, there was a lot. It's kind of disappointing. I feel like he didn't really do much last night. The only player that really stood out for me for Bari was, and I need to check if he's right back or left back because listeners, I'm terrible at this game. But Dorval, the right back for Bari, 22-year-old French right back, I thought he was absolutely fantastic. He ran absolutely everything down the wing as well. I thought defensively he was very solid. Every break that came through, every break that Bari had basically came through him and came through his running, his passing. So I thought he had a very exciting game and was a player that I thought, okay, nice. Yeah, this is someone to be excited about. The keeper, Caprile, made some really good saves, especially in the first half. Cagliari definitely had their chances. And I think overall, it was probably fair that Cagliari went through, even though I'm very, very disappointed. It's probably fair that Cagliari were promoted. But Caprile kept them in the game. And I think Maiello in midfield as well. But that front line of Khedira and Esposito, Esposito's a bit of a weird one. He's 20 years old now. He was a player that a lot of people were very excited about when he came through at Inter. He went on loan to, I want to say, Empoli. And he absolutely smashed it. No, it was Venezia. I want to check. And he absolutely smashed it up in Serie B for a while. In Venezia, he did quite well. And in he went on loan to Basel, did quite well. And there's a bit of excitement about him, but at the moment, it just feels like he's kind of petering out a little bit. The form isn't quite there. I thought he had a very, very quiet night. For Bari, go again, I suppose. We go again next year, see what happens. But we have to say for Cagliari, it's great to see Claudio Ranieri still absolutely smashing it up, right?
Yeah, beautiful scenes. And you saw how much it meant to him as well at the end when obviously he just sees the final whistle, hugs by his group. He's just crying. He's absolutely bawling himself out. But yeah, I think the backdrop of his history as well at Calgary, obviously, this was like the last chance saloon, I think, in terms of his career, because we know he hasn't had great fun since his kind of exploits at Leicester. I mean, if you remember, he spent time in France. I think it was Nantes, wasn't it? I want to say. Yeah. Then there was that spell with Watford as well.
Fulham.
He had caretaker role at Roma for a brief period of time, if you remember, as well. So he hasn't had much joy, should we say, since that time. But yeah, beautiful moment. I hope he gets one last run out. I think he might be given the chance to kind of keep them up in the league, and then it'll be on his terms whether he wants to stay there.
I think he has to be in the job next year, because for
Yeah.
him to turn them round in that short amount of time from 16th or 14th, whatever it was, to promotion is an incredible impact. And I think, classy as always, Claudio Ranieri, the Cagliari fans were chanting Serie B to the Bari fans. And he went up and was like, no, we don't sing that. We don't sing that. Like, sing about us, not about them, right? And I think he's just a super classy guy. You can't not love him. And the last thought on this, I suppose, maybe, is the San Nicola. That stadium looked unbelievable. I just keep... Like, obviously, I went there last year, but it was like a crappy cup game. There wasn't many people, and like, it was still great to visit the stadium. But seeing that, I was like, I need to go there for a league game. Like, holy crap! It would bring so much to Serie A. Bari being in Serie A, I know I'm biased, but Bari being in Serie A would bring so much to the league. That the passion in that city and the passion in that stadium, the atmosphere looked unbelievable. The first 5 minutes of the game, you couldn't see anything because of all the flare smoke. And like, then at half time again, and it looks incredible. They call it the spaceship in the desert, because it looks like it's just fucking landed there from somewhere.
Literally.
Just incredible. So hopefully it won't be long before they're back in Serie A. It's now been 2011 was the last time they were there under Antonio Conte. Can you believe that? Was the last time they were in Serie A. So yeah, fingers crossed it won't be long. It was a very, very disappointing evening, but we go again. I will be there to watch them in Serie B. The missus has said she's not going to the San Siro until she's able to see Bari, so it can't be too long. It can't keep her waiting. Can't keep her waiting too long, guys. Like,
come on, hurry up.
Next year. So we're going to leave that there, guys. Congratulations again to Cagliari and Ranieri. Yep. It will be great to see them back in Serie A, although their fans are so fucking racist.
Yes, I know.
The racism incidents are about to go up by 300%. I remember when they got relegated, me and Tommy were like, bye, off you go.
See you later.
Because we're just sick of the stories coming out of there. So yeah, there'll be a few more racist incidents, but I think as a team, it's good to see them back. Two teams bouncing straight back, and then we've got Frosinone. It's exciting.
Yeah, that is very exciting. I cannot wait, actually, for Gilardino, what he can do with that Genoa side. And Frosinone, obviously, with Fabio Grosso.
It's incredible.
That is going to be incredible in itself, isn't it? So we've got two ex-Italian national players now in the league as managers, which is just going to be phenomenal. It feels like a football manager's takeover. Let's see what we can do with those squads now. It's going to be
two World Cup winners coming into league. And for another name to be thrown into the hat, not Serie A, but I think it's still Serie C, Alessandro Nesta has just taken over at Reggiana as well. So he is in the management game, looking suave as ever. I was pretty excited about that, so I will be keeping my eye on. I always loved Nesta as a player. People don't talk about him enough as to how good he was.
Regina not in Serie B?
Reggiana.
Reggiana.
Okay. It's the different. It's the other one. Okay. So he's taken over them. So it'll be exciting to see how his management career goes as well. So plenty of Italian legends to look forward to. Frosinone will be a lot of fun, I think. A very attacking team, and they absolutely stormed the league this year. Like, it wasn't even close. So it'll be interesting to see how they did. How they do. Last time they were in Serie A, they got beaten up quite a bit, I think. So hopefully they'll do better this time. They could be our new Salernitana, maybe. We'll see if they could ever be replaced in our hearts. But I think that's all the football. God damn it, that's all the football. Wow. What do we talk about now, Adu?
Speculation. Oh no, we've got to talk about one individual, Rory. One special individual. Unfortunately, we're going to have to say rest in peace, right? Rest in peace, Silvio.
Big news. Big news today. Silvio Berlusconi, giant of Italy. Sadly passed away this morning after a long battle with illness. Kind of a weird one. The country's mood, obviously being in Italy at the moment, the church bells started ringing. Now, not in like a happy way. It was very much a sad church bells
solemn
ring when the news was released. Just I need to clarify that, because when I sent it to the boys on WhatsApp, I was like, "Oh, the church bells are ringing," and they were like, "Bloody, that's a bit harsh." I was like, "Oh no,
maybe
no,
they're just doing it to Wenger boys or something like that."
No, it was in a nice, in a sad way. Yeah, I think there's been lots of players from Milan that have paid tribute to him, saying how much of an impact they had on his life, how much of an impact he had on that club was insane. So he took over in 1984, I want to say 1987. They won multiple Champions Leagues, multiple Scudetti. Their most successful period, I think, was under him, and just always an interesting guy. Always added a bit of colour to things, right?
Never a dull moment with him. And we're talking offline before we started about some of the milestones that he's achieved, not just like on the other side of things in terms of his characteristics, but also just what he actually achieved in Milan was just phenomenal. When you think about, he took over the club when they were essentially bankrupt, took them over from that kind of plight, drove them on to the success under Sacchi, obviously Capello. And then obviously in the late 90s, we had Ancelotti and that squad that he managed to assemble. What he did for Milan as well was that kind of revolutionary thought in terms of he basically all of his other businesses he bought into that Milan kind of setup. We're talking about not just that media aspect, also the entrepreneurial aspects, like building this dynasty at Milan. And also when you think about Italians in that era, I would say, were a bit more advanced compared to the British clubs when it came to looking at like healthcare. But he was a step above most Italian teams when it came to it. So they'd have like dentists on site, for example, people that would look when it came to like that kind of medical stage where if there was something wrong with your teeth, that was it. You weren't being signed. It was to the letter. It was kind of made sure that you were getting someone that was going to basically perform. And I've heard some really funny stories about how Berlusconi, when he went to certain matches, he'd say, I really like this guy. And he forced that player onto that coach, which like the classic is Arrigo Sacchi during the years before he left for the Italian national coach. And obviously Capello is then lumbered with these players, but then they go on an unbeaten run with the same kind of squad that he's assembled. So you have to say Silvio Berlusconi, interesting guy. Like eccentric is probably the best word to describe him. Right?
He lived his life to the full and did what the hell he wanted. And that was, that's kind of it, really, I suppose. The stories about him are always so funny, about him making just the most inappropriate jokes to players about their wives in front of them. And just, I think he just had zero fucks to give about anything. And just, if I can, the one thing that always makes me laugh, and I just think, because it just, like people study international like politics and go masters and PhDs and maybe get a job in politics, and then you have to deal with diplomacy as this really finely balanced thing. Don't upset anyone. Don't it's all a big chess game. And then Berlusconi just describes Merkel as an unfuckable pig. And you think, okay, right, Jesus Christ, all the rules are out the window. This guy doesn't give a shit. And even, I know that's very offensive, but it just always makes me laugh. It always makes me laugh that this guy just did what the frig he wanted, for good, for bad, and for good and for worse. I think, because I think that his legacy away from football is very, very, very dirty and murky and all sorts. But there was quite a funny thing as well. A website today. I sent the screenshot to the boys. It's from Escort Advisor, which is a website where you can review
straight away
escorts. And their front page was just "Ciao Silvio," which I really, really appreciated, and I think he'd have appreciated it as well. So, rest in peace, Berlusconi. It kind of, that's it, really. I think.
Yeah, I think he did once say Milan was the most expensive prostitute he'd ever had. So that sums him up, doesn't it?
What a quote! What a guy! What a guy! We're going to leave that there for now, I think, and then we're going to do, I don't know, a little bit of transfer nonsense. Declan Rice still hasn't signed for Arsenal, and I'm getting impatient. And I've been like studying the video of him greeting Saka and Ramsdale at England camp, and being like, Ramsdale called him captain. Why did Ramsdale call him captain? Oh, there's a clue there. I feel like I'm really, it's taking over my psyche, Adam. I'm in trouble. This summer might kill me off.
Shall we start off then talking about the one that I tagged you on, which is Cancelo to Arsenal? Now, that was a hell of a potential signing. Well, what was your initial thoughts on that one first?
A really weird one. I don't want us to just sign look, I love Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus, but we're not going to be able to compete with them by signing players that they don't want. Like when City overtook us in like the early 2000s, they were buying the players that we didn't want to sell them. Nasri, Torre, Adebayor. They were going, oh, thank you, we'll have them. Now, obviously, we can't do that to Man City. I realize that. But us buying their kind of, the players that they see surplus to requirements, I don't know if that's where we improve to the level of getting better than them. Cancelo as a player, I really like. I would definitely not be angry about signing him. I'd just be a little bit concerned about Arteta relying on his Man City connections to get him somewhere. Whereas I think his recruitment elsewhere has been good enough to not have to do that. Now, obviously, players like Nuno Tavares, etc., just haven't worked out. So he's definitely got some like black spots on his notebook. But I think we don't need to be just going for every player that City get rid of. I think we can do a bit better than that. And if we get that lad from Galatasaray, I've heard that he's very good. Sasha Bowe that we've been linked to. I'd be quite happy about him. But I think it's going to be a big summer, eh? It's going to be a big summer for Arsenal. We're going to throw a bit of money about. I saw that Newcastle are very, very close to getting James Maddison. Tottenham also made an offer, apparently, but he's leaning more towards Newcastle. That's not a surprise for anyone, is it? We've known he's wanted to be there the entire season, right?
Yeah, definitely we have. The other one that really, I think, is permanent now is Yuri Tielemans. I don't know if you saw this, to Villa. It's a free transfer. So that's a very, probably astute one, isn't it?
Aston Villa are about to get Monchi from Sevilla.
Yes. Yeah,
now, Arsenal, Ibrahim Mustafa made me aware of this, a friend of the show. Arsenal wanted Monchi and Emery together when they brought in Emery, and Monchi turned down Arsenal. It will be interesting to see how Emery and Monchi do, because they were together at Sevilla, I think, in the first iteration when Emery kept winning the Europa League. I think this is an incredibly, more than the players on the pitch. Now, Roma fans will tell you differently, because Monchi at Roma did not work at all.
Yeah, fine.
But I think there is the potential for this to be a very, very big season for Villa to kick on if they bring in Monchi. And Tielemans is a very good start. If you can get his focus again and get him, because it seemed like he just lost interest completely.
Yeah, just lost it.
You've got a hell of a player there. Another very high-quality midfielder. That midfield is looking good at Villa.
It is. And linking it to Serie A, today it's rumoured that Hirving Lozano is also a target for Aston Villa. So I've already kind of said to Billy off the Aston Villa kind of pods that I think he'd be really good in terms of suiting that kind of ideology of what Emery wants to get out of a player. Someone that fights really hard for the ball, offers pace, someone that comes off the wing, but potentially could score goals as well, like contribute with Ollie Watkins. I think that'd be, a hell of a sign.
It's a really interesting one. I really like that idea. I really like that idea, because Lozano is a little bit hit and miss, and I think Napoli fans would tell you that he's inconsistent. But if you can get a tune out of him, he's a very, very dangerous player. So that would be an exciting one. But guys, I think we're going to call it a day there. I think we're gonna end it there. We just want to say thank you for joining us on all of these lives across the season. We appreciate every single one of you. As a gift for us, why don't you tell a friend and tell them, next season, when the season's kicking off, check out these guys. They're absolute legends. And always worth a listen, but not as big a legends as you are, guys. So thank you again. On Twitter, you can find us at Italian Anglo Pod, on Instagram at Anglo-Italian Pod. Hit the like and subscribe button here. We still have 2 episodes left, guys. Our Serie A season review, our Premier League season review, where we will be giving out the Anglo-Italian Awards. Exciting times. Adam, anything to say before I send him off with a quote?
Massive thank you to all, really. I suppose what I would say is we've grown this year, Rory. I know it's been the first year of us two being part of a pod.
A new era.
A lot of changes, it has to be said. But I've enjoyed it, mate. It's been amazing. A bit like
Yeah.
Jack Grealish. I'm going to go off now and get pissed. Right? Enjoy it. Right?
A 72-hour binge. Yeah, I can't wait. But we are going to leave you with a quote. And this is from BT Sports Coverage. And it's Mario Balotelli. It's not Humphreys. Don't worry. We weren't going to quote him. Not again. It's Mario Balotelli, where he turned around and said, this is for you, Adam. Poland, you guys play some dreadful football. But good luck with that. Guys, we will see you next time. Arrivederci.
Ciao, ciao.